Daniel 7, verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think of change the set times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and dividing of time. There has been so much hostility between Jews and Muslims today because they cannot identify who the real Messiah was in history. If they understood this, they would have peace instead of perpetually being. To achieve peace, both sides must embrace the true Messiah and reject the false one or the Antichrist. Based on many equations derived from Daniel's 70-week prophecy, one can calculate and identify the Antichrist as the entity that replaced the Bible with the Quran, erected his own temple to replace the Jewish Holy Temple, and ruled over Jerusalem for 1,260 years, from 707 to 1967. Thus, the Antichrist written in Revelation 13, 17, and 18 was figuratively Islam, a false religious system that opposes Jesus, the true Messiah. The Antichrist is not a person or a powerful leader invented by the miscalculated 7-year tribulation theology, because no one can live over 1,260 years to accomplish the work of the Antichrist. The book Final Years of Civilization was written, especially for Jews and Muslims, to show how God embedded many equations in the book of Daniel to prove that he is the true Messiah, who can bring everlasting peace to the world. His message for humanity is love, not hatred. The Messiah is God in human likeness. He is fully God and fully man, so that we can approach him. From the beginning to eternity, there is only one eternal God, the creator of the universe. In the infinite world, he always exists, and at the same time, in our finite world, he also exists in Jesus, the Messiah, as one God in two realities. This is the way that God can redeem humanity from sin and be with us forever. He made his plan become reality in Jesus in 1 AD, the year humanity assigned to his incarnation. From then, the name of God has become God the Father and God the Son, and is made known to us in the New Testament. The Father and the Son are one, or one God, in two realities, the infinite reality and the finite reality on earth. Jesus said, "I and the Father are one, and I am in the Father, and the Father is in me, and anyone who has seen me has seen the Father." If you study Revelation in greater detail regarding Jesus, you will see that Jesus is God himself, because all the descriptions about Jesus exactly match the descriptions of God in the Old Testament, such as, "I am the first and the last, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end." Even Jesus' white hair, like pure wool, described in Revelation 1. 14 to 18 match the white hair of his Father, the Ancient of Days, described in Daniel 7, verse 9. This is the mystery of God, and how he took on human flesh, defeated death, and lived with us forever, as the Bible said. He was wounded for our transgressions, or he was slain before the foundation of the world. God planned all of this before he created us. As we spend eternity with God, we must always think of his love and his humiliating death on the cross, so that no one can boast but learn to live humbly, justly, and mercifully with one another forever. Let's review the time chart of Daniel's 70-week prophecy that we discussed in our previous video. There are 7 historical events predicted in the book of Daniel from 444 BC to 2042, as shown in the time chart. Each of these events has a specific equation to tell the exact calendar year and the length of the event. For this video, we only discuss about the 2 events that make up the 1,260-year period of the Antichrist, as marked in the chart. To know more about Daniel's equations and the calculations, please watch the video, Daniel's 70-week prophecy, a 2,485-year duration. The video link is given in the description below. To identify the Antichrist, one must use the 7 equations in the book of Daniel. Daniel 9 verses 24 to 27 gave us 2 sets of heptads, or weeks of time, 69 short weeks and 1 long week. The 69 short weeks equal 483 prophetic days, and 1 long week equals 7 years, or 2,520 prophetic days. In prophecy, a day is a year. This is the correct interpretation of the prophecy because it matched perfectly with historical records for the past 6 historical events. All other assumptions didn't match. Therefore, 483 prophetic days equal 483 biblical years, or 476 solar years, and 2,520 prophetic days equal 2,520 biblical years, or 2,485 solar years. The prophecy started in 444 BC, as mentioned in Daniel 9 verse 25. Both sets of numbers started in the same year, for 44 BC, and moved forward at the same speed. The 69 short weeks stopped at 33 AD, the year Jesus died on the cross as the suffering Messiah, exactly 476 years from 444 BC to 33 AD. However, the 1 long week continued to go on until 2042, the year Jesus will return to earth as a triumphant Messiah, exactly 2,485 years from 444 BC to 2042, as calculated by the 6 equations. Daniel also gave us other prophetic numbers such as 1,150 years, 1,260 years, 1,290 years, and 1,335 years. Both numbers 476 and 2,485 years interlink Daniel's other prophetic numbers 1150, 1260, 1290, and 1,335 years together like a jigsaw puzzle. As a result, from these prophetic numbers, one can formulate a master equation to calculate the 2,485-year duration of the prophecy and pinpoint the exact calendar year associated with each of the 7 historical events recorded during the entire prophecy from 444 BC to 2042. The Bible does not specifically mention about the last 7 years of earth in which a modern Antichrist will rule the world. The Bible only mentioned a period of 1 prophetic week, or heptad, equivalent to 2,485 actual years, in which Islam, or figuratively the Antichrist, ruled over Jerusalem and the Temple Mount for 1,260 years from 707 to 1967, as calculated by the equations. His identification number is 666, a derivative of number 1,260-year period. 666 is equal to 600 plus 60 plus 6. This is the number of the Antichrist according to the book of Revelation, chapter 13, verse 18. You can notice how the number 6 occurs 3 times in the equation. 1, 2, 3. 1,260 days or years equal to 600 plus 60. According to the book of Revelation, chapter 12, verse 6. Notice again how the number 6 occurs 3 times in the equation. 1, 2, 3. The calculations show the Messiah came and lived among us for 33 years, from 1 AD to 33 AD, and will return in 2042 to bring everlasting peace to the world. In contrast, the Antichrist, or Islam, came and controlled Jerusalem and the Temple Mount for 1,260 years, from 707 to 1967. 707 is the year Islam erected its own Aqsa Mosque to replace the Jewish Holy Temple in Jerusalem. 1967 is the year Israel recaptured Jerusalem and its temple site. There are 4 equations to confirm the year 707 and 3 equations to confirm the year 1967. The calculated results for the past 6 historical events, including the years and the durations, have been confirmed precisely with historical records from 444 BC to today. The final event will occur in 2042, as calculated. Note that there are 6 equations to pinpoint 2042 as the end year, and another 6 equations to pinpoint 444 BC as the starting year of the prophecy. Therefore, there will be no third temple, nor any other Antichrist to come. The final 7-year tribulation and the modern Antichrist are miscalculated. These are contradictory to Daniel 9 verse 26. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. And the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. Desolation will be to the end in 2042. Jesus will rebuild the temple, and is also the resurrected temple, as he implied. In the past, Israel worshipped Baal, gods of the moon, the stars, and the sun, and despised Jesus. So, God banished them from their land and put the 2 great agents of Baal, which are the Roman Empire and the Islamic Empire, to control the land for almost 2,000 years. During the First World War, from 1914 to 1918, the British Army and its allies defeated Germany and the Islamic Ottoman Empire. The British Army captured Jerusalem from the Ottoman Empire, and by its mandate, the State of Israel was created in 1948, as predicted in the Bible over 2,500 years ago. Although Israel came back as a nation in 1948, East Jerusalem, with its Holy Temple, was still under the control of the Arab Muslims until 1967. After the Six-Day War initiated by the Arab Muslims, Israel took back full control of Jerusalem and the temple site on June 11, 1967. God ended the 1,260 years of persecution from the Red Dragon, or the Islamic beast, as predicted in Revelation and Daniel as mentioned in Daniel 12 verse 7 and 7:25, Revelation 12 verses 6 and 14, and 11:12. The year 1967 marked the completion of the time of the Gentiles trampling Jerusalem, exactly as Jesus mentioned in Luke 21 verse 24. The following Bible verses describe this period, which lasted 1,260 actual years, as 1260 biblical days, or 42 biblical months, or 3.5 biblical years. Luke 21 verse 24. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles,
mostly Gentile Muslims,
until the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled.
1,260 actual years.
Daniel 12 verse 7. The man dressed in linen, who was standing above the river, raised both his hands toward heaven, and took a solemn oath by the one who lives forever, saying, It will go on for a time, times, and half a time.
3 to 5 prophetic years, 1,260 days, or actual 1,260 years.
When the shattering of the holy people has finally come to an end,
or the holy people will no longer be shattered, or the Jews come back and recapture Jerusalem.
All these things will have happened. All things in Daniel come to end in 1967. Revelation 11 verse 2. But leave out the court which is outside the temple, and do not measure it, for it has been given to the Gentiles.
Mostly Gentile Muslims.
And they will tread the holy city underfoot for 42 months.
42 months multiplied by 30 days per month equals 1,260 days, or 1,260 actual years.
Revelation 12 verse 6. Then the woman
Israel
fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days.
1,260 days, or actual 1,260 years.
Revelation 12 verse 14. And to the woman
Israel
were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time, and times, and half a time.
3 to 5 biblical years, or 1,260 days, or 1,260 years.
From the face of the serpent.
Satan, or the Islamic beast.
Daniel 7 verse 25. And he
Islam, the Antichrist, figuratively,
shall speak great words
of the Quran and the Hadith
against the Most High,
God and His Son,
and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think of change the set times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and dividing of time.
or 1,260 years.
The Gentile Muslims legitimately controlled Jerusalem and the temple site 1,260 years. Officially, starting from 707, when Islam set up the Al-Aqsa Mosque on the Jewish holy site, and ending in 1967, when Israel took back the holy site. The final 75-year period, from 1967 to 2042, belongs to the fig tree generation predicted by Jesus, including the final wrath of God and his return in 2042. Jerusalem is the soul of the nation, and Israel must recapture the entire city, both East and West Jerusalem, and the Temple Mount before Daniel's prophecy is completed. Though Israel relinquished the two Islamic temples to Islam for religious worship only, Israel still has total control and sovereignty over the Temple Mount. June 11, 1967, marked the end of the 1,260 years in which the Islamic Antichrist ruled. 707 AD is also called the year the abomination set up, or the year the final desolation started. Rome destroyed Jerusalem in 70 AD, but 70 AD was not the year for the abomination that caused desolation to start yet. This had to wait until 707, when the Islamic Antichrist erected the Al-Aqsa Mosque to replace the Jewish Holy Temple. Year 707 is also located in the midst of the 70th Heptad, or the Long Week, as seen in the time chart. It sits in between the initial 1,150-year period and the 1,335-year period that make up the 2,485-year length of the prophecy. The number of 1,150 years, or 1150 biblical days, comes from 2,300 times of sacrifices, twice a day, according to Moses' law, one in the morning and one in the evening. 2,300 divided by 2 is equal to 1,150 days total. Rome only destroyed the physical temple in AD 70 and desolated the land, but did not defile the holy temple site. Rome did not set up any permanent abomination structure on the platform of God's holy temple. Even though the temple was demolished in 70 AD, its holy foundation was still there, and people were still able to make morning and evening prayers at the site until 707. The calculated year 707 is a critical year because the last three events, 1260, 1290, and 1335, all started this year, as described in the book of Daniel in various details. The Al-Aqsa Mosque was completed around 707 after its largest expansion. This expansion may have touched the wing top of Solomon's temple, or the temple platform, as mentioned in Daniel 9 verse 27. On the wing of the temple,
Islam, the Antichrist,
will set up an abomination that causes desolation
of God's holy temple site.
This mosque is the third most holy place for Muslims. Muslims used to pray in the direction of this mosque before changing the direction to Mecca. According to the night journey story, this is the place where Prophet Muhammad led a prayer among previous prophets in the Bible, such as Adam, Abraham, Moses, and Jesus, before ascending to heaven to meet God. This mosque is a fully functioning house of worship. It can accommodate 5,000 worshippers versus the Dome of the Rock, which is more of a shrine built to commemorate Muhammad ascending to heaven to meet God. The night journey story puts Prophet Muhammad above all prominent figures in the Bible and demotes Jesus Christ to merely a prophet, even below Prophet Muhammad. This is a repeating mistake of Lucifer, the morning star, mentioned in Isaiah 14 verses 12 to 15, because the prophet leveled himself with Jesus, God, in human likeness. Jesus is God, as he said in John 10 verse 30, I and the Father are one. Because Israel rejected Jesus Christ as the Son of God, he gave the land and the temple to the first beast, which was the Roman Empire, and then to the second beast, which was the Islamic Empire. The Islamic beast is the reincarnation of the former beast, and it ruled over Jerusalem and scattered the Jews for 1,260 years from 707 to 1967, exactly as calculated and recorded in our history. These are the current pictures of the two Islamic temples built on Jerusalem's Temple Mount. The Dome of the Rock was built around 691 to 692. The enlarged Al-Aqsa Mosque was completed around 707. Today, on the drum of the Dome of the Rock, one can find Surah al-Isra, the night journey of Prophet Muhammad, mentioned in the 17th chapter of the Quran. Islam erected the Al-Aqsa Mosque around 705 to 709, which is in the midst of the long Heptad mentioned in Daniel 9 verse 27. The long Heptad spans from 444 BC to 2042, from 444 BC to 707, and then from 707 to 2042. In this midpoint period from 622 and 997, Islam also changed God's calendar to its own Islamic calendar, BHH, God's law to Sharia law, and the biblical word of God to the Quranic word of Allah, as mentioned in Daniel 7 verse 25. Daniel's equations showed that 707 AD is the exact year the mosque was completed. Daniel and Jesus called it the abomination that caused desolation. The year 1967 marked the end of the 1,260-year period from 707 to 1967 of the Gentiles trampling Jerusalem and its temple, as recorded in our recent history. In Luke 21 verses 20 to 24 and Matthew 24, Jesus implied that Jerusalem must be captured first by the Roman Empire in 70 AD, and later by the Islamic armies in 638 AD, then in 707 AD. Islam must set up the abomination that caused desolation to drive the Jewish people out of the Holy Land for 1,260 years, from 707 to 1967. And finally the Jewish people must return to their own land in 1948, and their temple site 1967, before Jesus returns in 2042. Matthew 24 describes a 2,010-year-long story of the end time. It started from 33 AD passing through 2033 and will end in 2042 when the gospel finally reaches the end of the world, probably North Korea and other forbidden Muslim territories. According to Revelation 17 and 18, Islam, the mystery of Babylon, must fall before Jesus returns. Note that Rome only destroyed the temple and trampled the city of Jerusalem for 637 years, from 70 to 707. However, Islam trampled both the city and the temple by erecting its own temple in 707 to replace the Jewish temple. In doing so, it defiled the Jewish holy site and fully controlled the site for 1,260 years, from 707 to 1967. The word "he" in Daniel 8 verses 11 to 12 refers to Satan, as given in Revelation 12 verse 4 and 9. He placed the Al-Aqsa Mosque, a pagan temple, on the holy ground of the Jewish temple in Jerusalem and demanded people worship Allah, a foreign god, instead of the biblical God whom Jews and Christians worship. He took away the evenings and the mornings of sacrifices or worships by forbidding Jews and Christians to worship on this site, that is the Temple Mount. Trespassing would be punished by death. The deceptions are to make Allah the God of the Bible, to replace Jesus with Muhammad, and the Bible with the Quran. The Quran of Islam also took away the daily or the continuous blood sacrifice of Jesus by saying Jesus did not die on the cross for your sins. Thus, this prophecy was fulfilled in 707, as written in Daniel 9 verse 27, over 2,500 years ago, with 4 equations to confirm. All sacrifices to God on the Temple Mount have been forbidden by Islam, starting from 707 and on, until Jesus returns in 2042. The year 707 is also the year Islam incorporated the tomb of Prophet Muhammad into the Masjid-i-Nabawi site, their second holiest place on earth. The first gold coin, issued in 707 AD by the Umayyad dynasty, the builder of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, had the following words from the Quran written on it: Allah is God alone. He has no associate. This implied that Jesus is not the Son of God, and denied his deity, exactly as said in 1 John 2 verse 22. The final Antichrist, who caused the desolation of God's temple, spoken of by Daniel, was figuratively Islam itself. However, in reality, Satan is the actual Antichrist who has engineered the whole destructive plan to prevent Jesus, the Messiah, from coming back. He killed the Messiah in 33 AD, and he made sure that there would be no rebuilt temple for the Messiah to come in when he returns in 2042. No one knows how God is going to solve this conundrum. Perhaps Jesus himself is the temple, as he mentioned: destroy this temple, and on the third day I will rebuild it. For men a day is a year, but for God a day is a 1,000-year period. And 2042 is the beginning of his third day. The number of the Antichrist. Number 666 is a human number and is not a number of a person's name as translated. If so, it is very easy to calculate and figure out who the Antichrist is. No one could live 1,260 years to accomplish the tasks except Satan. The Antichrist was figuratively Islam, the false prophet. It is the entity that carried the numerical number 666, as mentioned in Revelation. According to the books of Revelation and Daniel, the numbers 1,260 days, 42 months, and 3.5 years belong to Islam, because Islam desecrated and polluted God's holy site with its own Aqsa Mosque and controlled the Temple Mount for 1,260 years. All these three numbers have 666 patterns of the Antichrist in them. Let us rewrite these numbers in different ways to expose the 666 patterns of the Antichrist. 666 equals 600 plus 60 plus 6. The original Greek language in Revelation 13 verse 18 said kaizai, or 600 threescore, and 6. The Greek word kaizai is an abbreviated, indeclinable numeral. There's only one abbreviated number like this in the Bible, namely the infamous number 666 in Revelation 13 verse 18. The number 666 carries a 666 pattern, and also 600, 60, and 6 patterns. Antichrist's number equals 600 plus 60 plus 6, or 666 total. The Antichrist ruled 1,260 days, or 42 months, or 3.5 years. 1,260 days equals 600 plus 600 plus 60, Revelation 12 verse 6 and 12:14, 666 patterns. 42 months equals 6 times 4 plus 6 times 2 plus 6 times 1. Revelation 13 verse 5 and Revelation 11 verse 2, 666 pattern. 42 months equals 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6, 7 times 6. 3.5 years equals 6 quarters plus 6 quarters plus 6 months. A day is a year in prophecy, as proven exactly by historical records and Daniel's equations for all 7 events. Therefore, the 1,260-day period represents the actual 1,260-year period in which Islam ruled over both Jerusalem and the Holy Temple Mount. If the number 1260 belongs to Islam, and it carries the identity of the Antichrist's number 666, logically, Islam must be the Antichrist. Both the math and the logic identify Islam as the Antichrist described in Daniel and Revelation. God created man on the 6th day, not on the 7th. Thus, the number 6 is a human number and is not a perfect number as the number 7 is. Revelation also calls 666 the number of the beast because it refers to a man-made governmental and religious system controlled by the beast. Islam meets the definition of this 666 system. It is a man-made religion with triplicate identifications of the number 666. 1 stands for religious power, 1 stands for political power, and 1 stands for satanic power, and all 3 are imperfect numbers. As a result, it is not a true religion from God, but a man-made religion from Satan. These 6 also stand for the 3 entities written in Revelation. Satan, the beast, and the false prophet, who rule over the earth and oppose both Yahweh, God of the Jews, and Jesus, God of the Christians. Quran 17 verse 111 said that Jesus is not the Son of God. Quran 4 verse 157 said that Jesus was not crucified on the cross or died for your sins. Quran 2 verse 254 said that Jesus is not the mediator between God and man. These statements are outrageous, anti-Bible, and anti-Christianity. Therefore, Islam is the spirit of the Antichrist as the Bible defined. 1 John 4 verse 2 and 3, written around 90 AD, 540 years before Islam existed. Every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is of God, and every spirit that does not confess that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is not of God. And this is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have heard was coming, and is now already in the world. The Antichrist already came and accomplished its 1,260-year mission from 707 to 1967 of spreading an opposite gospel from the gospel of Jesus Christ. 666 prophecy has been fulfilled. Revelation 13 verses 16 to 18. He causes people to receive a mark in their foreheads or in their right hands, and that no one might buy or sell anything without the mark or the name or the number of his name. His number is 666. The word Islam means total submission. Therefore, Islam rules the world with fear, using the power of its own laws. Once you are in the religion, you cannot question Allah or his teachings. Muslims cannot convert to Christianity or other faiths without severe consequences or even death. In the past, wherever Islam ruled, people had to convert to Islam to survive, or they had to pay the poll tax. If not, they will be killed by the sword, as written in the Quran 9 verses 5 to 33. If your identity was not that of a Muslim, it was difficult to do business or to find a job in such societies. Moreover, under the Islamic Empire, Jews and Christians were considered second-class citizens. If they didn't convert to Islam, they had to give up many of their rights and pay poll tax. Therefore, many Jews and Christians had to convert to Islam against their wills to survive. This was the way Islam, the Antichrist, controlled the people during the first 150 years of its supremacy, from 707 to 857, as calculated by Daniel's equations. Revelation 9 verses 1 to 11 calls the first Islamic conquest as invasion of locusts from the abyss, or the stinging power of scorpions. For Jews and Christians, it is a painful conversion against their will during the initial 150 years of Islam, like being stung by scorpions, but still alive. The 150 years come from the expression of 5 biblical months, or 150 biblical days, described in Revelation 9 verse 5. The Islamic beast conquered the Middle East and 1/3 of the Known World at that time. Revelation 9 verse 16 mentions that it commanded an army of 200 million men, or 200 million Muslims, who entrapped by power of Islam. Revelation 9 verse 18 mentions that it killed 1/3 of the world's population, not physically but spiritually killed off their souls. At the height of the Islamic Ottoman Empire in the 15th century, the world's population was 600 million, and 1/3 of it represented 200 million. Muslims love to have their identities named after Prophet Muhammad's 99 names in the Quran to show loyalty to Islam. Changing their names for religious identity is a sign of submission to that religious system, like having a mark in their foreheads. Muslims also dress differently from non-Muslims. Dressing in a certain way, such as in white robes with long sleeves to show religious identity or equality, is a pledge of allegiance to that religious system, like having a mark in their right hands. One can identify them by their names or their dresses. Revelation 13 verse 13 says, "He does great wonders, so that he makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men." In modern warfare, the Islamic Ottoman Empire is the first one to utilize gunpowder on a very large scale. During the siege of Constantinople in 1453, it used 69 large cannons with fireballs weighing up to 1,200 pounds to attack the city and defeated the Eastern Roman Empire. As a result, the Islamic Ottoman Empire got its name as the Gunpowder Empire. The Antichrist's religion mesmerizes God's loving people to believe in a false God and promotes people to commit suicidal atrocities in the name of God. This is anti-biblical teaching and against the moral principles that God instills in every human being. This is the extreme form of hatred from Satan, not the loving kindness from a merciful God. That's why the Bible calls Islam the Antichrist, as proven by Daniel's equations. Islam is a very powerful religion that has deceived and converted many Jews and Christians to a false religious system that Daniel's equations point out. According to Daniel chapter 11 and Revelation chapters 13, 17, and 18, this religious system will fall apart before 2042. Please see our second video regarding the fall of Islam, the mystery Babylon, and the mother of all false religions that the past 7 empires practiced. Islam holds all the clues revealed in these prophetic chapters. If you like the video, please click on the like button and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching.